This is part 3 of the week 4 presentation for GA325. Parts of a grid, part 1. All grids possess the same components, although some components may be omitted or combined on certain projects for simplification or function purposes. The grid is planned with the format in mind. Flow lines are horizontal lines that run along the page creating rows. Columns are vertical alignments of type, breaking up the horizontal space. And gutters are gaps between the modules. Parts of a grid, part 2. Other components of a grid consist of margins, which we already are familiar with. This is the empty space between the edge of the page format and the outside of content and images. Several modules may be used when placing a large image or font. These multiple module areas are known as spatial zones. Markers are designated areas for reoccurring elements which are in the same position on each page. Examples of this would be running heads, page numbers, and subheads. Column grid text structure. Breakup of a grid space using vertical lines or columns for text can allow running type to be lined up neatly inside of modules, at the same time allowing small blocks of text to be placed independent of the columns. Normally, the gutter is given an amount of space and the margins are double that space, such as a gutter of 1/4 inch and a margin of a 1/2 inch. Flow lines divide each column into rows, once again creating mods. Flow lines can define positioning for callouts or sidebars. They can be used at the top of the page to position running headers or section dividers. The hang line is a flow line that defines the top of the column text horizontally. Common magazine newsletter column grids. Format size and how much information is going on a page helps determine how many columns are used in a layout. One column is like no columns at all. Items may be lined up horizontally, but be anywhere vertically. 2, 3, and 4 columns are common in magazines, newsletters, and newspapers. A 4 or 5 column page can allow the designer to combine 2 or more columns when placing a large image or headline. Grids do not need to be spaced evenly, forming square modules. Guides are made to be broken, but only if there is an adequate visual reason. 2, 3, and 4 column grids can differ in margin space, amount of flow lines, gutters, and column width. The artist may decide for visual impact reasons to break the grid guides and have an image take up 2 columns of space and go slightly beyond the column edge into the gutter. Sidebars may have a different background color area with different color fonts and go to the edges of the page. This is to let the reader know that the information is related to the main content, but not a part of it. Here are some real-world grid examples. We have a magazine spread here where the left side has a minimal grid base. The photo makes a vertical while the headline creates the horizontal, and that's it basically, right? Placing the photograph that goes throughout the whole image, and the text is kind of centered on there and kind of used the similar colors in the photograph to help connect it. Notice how the text doesn't go over her face either, which is a good thing because usually we're drawn more to the face, and that's the most important part of it. So therefore, the text overlaps but has a good connection between the two and doesn't take away anything. The right page has 3 columns on the bottom half of the page, balanced by a large white space taking up the top half of the row. There's a lot of negative space in the picture on the left, so to kind of keep that balance, they decided to put more white space above it, and we have a 3-column grid layout for the body copy. Another real-world example, here we have a more traditional 4-column breakdown going across both pages of the spread. The headline, a gray background with photos and the copy form 3 uneven rows, while the vertical columns are fairly even with some white space utilized at the top. So each page has 2 columns, which altogether, of course, make the 4. You can see it's pretty balanced. I mean, it's almost symmetrical with the way that the pictures flow and the body copy and also the titles. These 2 pages have a more creative breakdown of space. The headline on the left and the 3 photos on the right line up to make vertical flow, or a vertical row, sorry. The photo serves to unite the 2 pages, and as a border for the columns of type and the subhead, the left page has a 3-column grid format, while the right page has 1 column on the left side, with the smaller font size split in half. Another real-world example, this 2-page spread has a more traditional break of space. It has solid white background on both pages with a green bar on the bottom right traveling into the left page. This helps unite the spread. The 2 large photos go beyond the grid into the bleed of the page and on the right into the gutter. The graphic elements on the 2 pages also go beyond the boundaries of the grid. Our last example, this layout actually uses a background grid of yellow, blue, and white blocks of color, along with a layer on top composed of the type and photos. Because the type on the left goes into various background colors, it has to change the font color. This is rarely done because it reduces legibility a great deal. Here it sacrificed to provide an exciting interplay between the images, graphics, and words. This concludes Lecture 4, and this slide has the references for the imagery used. Thanks for watching this presentation.